All right, all right. So I'm going to go ahead and give the in code. If everybody, look, I think we got everybody coming in. The in code of the session is 25. Lucky number 25. Well, good job on attending all the sessions. Okay. Well, before even we introduce ourselves, we want to kind of gauge who's out there. In code 25 in case you need it. I'm with this conference being so diverse, like it has a lot of different populations of people, right? It's the ability, people who are coming in that want self-direction, people being served, people that are serving people being served, people who are funding people being served, and people who are interested in learning more about people served. So we have a couple questions for you. We want you to raise your hand if you're a person who is interested in self-directing your own services. All right, thank you. We want you to raise your hand if you're a person currently self-directing your services. Nice. Raise your hand if you're a person self-directing a service in Michigan. Nobody out of Michigan? In Michigan? Thank you. All right, now raise your hand if you're a case manager or a care coordinator that has someone in self-direction. Nice. Raise your hand if you're a case manager or care coordinator that wants to have someone in self-direction but doesn't. Oh, no, everybody's got one? Oh, I love that extra. All right. Anyone here from the provider network? Nice. Welcome, providers. We're a provider too. And then raise your hand if you have a leadership position with CMHSP, CMHA, PIHP. Nice. Welcome, guys. So we have a Well, nice to meet you. Thank you. Well, we just kind of want to gauge the room, right? So again, that proves my point. We have an absolute diverse group of people. So you're going to see that our presentation today may not be tailored to you specifically, but pieces of it will be, okay? So we're going to have all different topics through today, and we'll be able to talk about it. But first, I'm Tiffany Lang. I'm a Director of Business Development with GT Independence. GT Independence is a financial management services serving here in Michigan, and we've been serving here, oh gosh, I think we're about to turn 20. About 20 years here in Michigan. Michigan is our home base and our first person we served in self-direction, so it is our heart and soul, and we are based out of Sturgis, Michigan. We cover about 95 contracts across the state and serve roughly 5,000 people in Michigan. And this is Tanya Lawrence.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Tanya Lawrence. I'm the Director of Relationships for GT Independence covering the state of Michigan, and have dabbled a little bit in our growth across the country along with Tiff. Just excited to be here at GT Independence and excited to be able to help people live a life of their choosing. So without further ado, I'll let Tiff get started.
Thank you. GT Independence, I've been there with them for, well, it'll be 13 years in August, and have had the pleasure of serving roughly 5,000, and I think about 3,000 of them I can directly attest to enrolling personally. So over the years, I go out and meet with family homes. I've moved on kind of from that role a little bit to serve across the country. We're now in 16 states and serve 31,000 people across the country. So some of the things we're learning, we're trying to help and bring back and bring to the state of Michigan and work groups and teams, and Tanya brings that boots to the ground here in Michigan for us. So we're going to talk a little bit about that today, plus other agenda items. So our objectives today are: what is self-determination, principles of self-determination, advantages and benefits of SD, what is self-direction? Oddly enough, they're different. Who and what services can you self-direct, SD access points in the state of Michigan, budgets and service plans, what is an FMS, and advocacy opportunities. Okay, so very diverse topic headings, right? So we're just gonna skim the top. You wanna know more? Please come talk to us. We know more. What is self-determination? So I want you guys to think about something today, okay? I want you to do me a favor. I want you to close your eyes. I know, nobody's looking, not even me. I'm not gonna look, okay? I want you to think about what time you woke up, okay? You don't have to tell me, I don't wanna know. What time did you wake up? Did you get the choice on whether or not you took a shower today? Did you get your choice of what you got to wear? Did you get the choice of what you ate for breakfast? Did you get the choice of where you would be? Did you get the choice of what you would do? And did you get the choice of who you spend time with? Those are all really, really tiny parts of our day, right? Things that we don't even think about. Now I want you to take that one step further. I want you to think about, okay, I was getting ready to get in the shower. And I need a little help to get in there, right? For whatever reason, I need a little help to get in the shower. Now, would it be important to me if I got to choose who helped me get in the shower? Would it be important to me if that person cared what time I showered? And would it be important to me if they cared enough to know that I prefer coffee in the morning instead of orange juice, and that I'm a really late riser and hate mornings, and that I don't want to shower at 6:30? I'd rather shower at 10 or 2. All of those things are the choices that we find so important in what makes self-determination. You can open your eyes. These are the things that many of our families don't get to choose on a daily basis, right? Think about the people you serve. Think about your personal home life. Think about everything you do. Think about a family or friend member that has caregivers or doesn't have a caregiver, or if you're the personal caregiver for. Those choices are so small, but so, so important to how your day goes and your quality of life. So that's why we're here. We want to talk about people having the ability to make those choices every single day. Their right to choose what's important to them in the big things and the small things. All right, self-directed services. Choice brings better outcomes. So not only is it important to individuals and humanity and all of those things, it brings better outcomes. Self-directed participants were 90% more likely to say they have a satisfied life. Self-directed participants significantly reduces unmet personal care needs because the person they chose to help them chose them too, right? Primary caregivers were significantly more satisfied with their lives when they were self-directing and they chose the person they work for and work with. So the caregivers are happier too, right? We have big direct care workforce crisis. Caregivers are happier too. They're choosing who they get to spend their time with and the people they care about and the people they assist. Self-directed participants report a higher quality of life than people undergoing traditional care. And when we talk about traditional care, we think of different things, but traditional care models can mean staffing arrangements, they can mean nursing facilities, they can mean transitional care facilities, many different things. But any way a person can self-direct their life and we can add a layer of choice, it is probably the most powerful thing we can do. What are the principles of SD? Anybody in this room has probably had this training before, right? You guys probably heard it. I'm just going to cover it because I find it so important. The principles of self-determination are freedom, not just a principle, it's a right? Authority, confirmation, responsibility, and support. Freedom, all those choices we just talked about, and many, 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 many more, right? Authority is the personal power to make them. You have the authority to make your choices. Does it mean you have to do it alone? No. You don't have to do it alone. You can do it with your representative. You can work with your care team. You can work with your FMS. You can work with your caregivers. Your team is your life, right? Your team is what makes these services successful. Most people couldn't do it alone. I couldn't do it alone. No way. No way. Confirmation. Validation and confirmation that you can do it. You have the support system to do it. And that everyone confirms that you're good with it, right? Like you confirm that you're good with it, and they confirm you're good with it. This is the tricky one. This is the one we worry about, right? Responsibility. Responsibility is the action of making sure everything's done right? Signing off on timesheets, making sure your caregivers really do provide the support and the hours that they need, making sure their documentation's in, making sure their trainings are up to date. All those things are important for an employer or a self-directed participant to be responsible for. But again, not alone. They don't have to do it themselves. And support. We, friends, are the support system, right? We're the support system. We're here. We guide them. We help them. We make sure they're successful in the arrangements. Not doing things, Judy Heumann, R.I.P. Judy. Not doing things by yourself, but being in charge of how things are done, by Judy Heumann, American Disability Rights Advocate. Self-determination is not a program. It's a way of life. So, it's a way of life. Sorry, Tanya, did I take over your slides? Yeah, I'm okay. So sorry. You can have it back.
She's such a professional, she went right on through my part, so I just let her. But we just have a quick video here that I find very powerful. It's from the campaign Nothing About Us Without Us. And I just want to share this today to kind of go over the whole slogan and what it means to the people who are living the life.
Disabled advocates share their opinions on the Nothing About Us Without Us bill over video call. The Nothing About Us Without Us bill will make it so that people with disabilities can be fully represented on task force work groups and committees that make policy decisions that affect our everyday lives as citizens with disabilities.
Which is very important because too many laws, too many bills have been created without us.
We don't expect people without disabilities in the legislature or state officials to automatically somehow know what we need.
We are best to speak on that because we are living it.
I've always told my legislators, I'm here for you. Reach out to me. I'm here to support you too.
Historically, when we're not at the table, a lot of bad policy comes out. Forced institutionalization, forced sterilization, a lot of force and control being put on people with disabilities that people with disabilities never asked for.
It's time. It's well overdue for us to be involved in creating these bills.
Because then and only then can we make a difference by having a law that supports our civil rights
and prevent those times that can happen when well-intentioned efforts end up having an unintended impact.
I believe better legislation will be made because you now will have people at the table that have various backgrounds with various disabilities, given that perspective.
So Nothing About Us Without Us is where equity begins.
How powerful is that, right? That's why we have you all here. Sorry, I'm losing my voice already. What's the takeaway from that video? Can somebody just raise their hand and give me one takeaway? Anybody have a thought, an emotion that it brought about to you? Right. It was. We do. Even in the state of Michigan, I can't tell you guys how powerful the advocacy group really is here in Michigan. It's wonderful to see.
Here's one of the self-advocates of Michigan right now.
Yes.
Go get him. Yeah, she has been working with legislators.
I can answer a question.
Absolutely. We serve on some of the same committees, so I appreciate her efforts there. Anybody else? An emotion it brings to you? Sure.
For me, for years my brother was always said to be, as the mind of a child, and now people are realizing that no, he just doesn't talk.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't, but he is so much more.
Mm-hmm.
And now people are realizing that outside of the disability community, because throughout it, no one in the community has ever referred to my brother as being the mind of a child, because they've always been able to find out how he communicates. But now people outside of that, and more than that, they're understanding that, just because people don't sound like you or don't behave like you doesn't mean they're inferior or unable to handle complex thought and decision and understanding. And that has made me very happy because I
Mm-hmm.
despise the idea of all of that. So every time I see that, and I've known about them for a long time, I love what they do.
I'm just curious. So, would you say that he maybe doesn't talk, but I would imagine he communicates very well? Right, exactly.
Anybody else? Thoughts, emotions? Absolutely. And one of the slides that Tiff covered had Judith Heumann's quote on there. And I think if you do nothing else when you leave this conference is to look up Judith Heumann. She just passed away recently, but what a legacy she's left us in the disability rights field. I mean, she's just powerful. So if you don't know about her, look her up. I'm sure it'll bring you some some good reading and
And,
emotions as well.
There's a super funny way to get a quick history. There's something called Drunk History with Judy Heumann, and it is hysterical, funny, and powerful. So if you get the chance to watch Drunk History with Judy Heumann,
Yes.
take it.
Yes.
And have a box of Kleenex. Yes, yes, yes. Still funny. Yep. It was on Netflix for a little while too.
Yes,
Crip
it
Camp
was.
was. I
Oh.
know, right? It's so good. It's so
It is
good.
definitely powerful. Let me just share you guys the emotions it brings to me. Oh, CRIP, C-R-I-P, yes.
Yep.
Yes. So before I jump into the advantages and benefits of self-determination, let me let you guys know how self-determination has impacted my life personally. And this is a story that I've told 100 times over, but it is impactful. I personally have been around developmentally disabled people my entire life. I grew up in our family's foster care home. We had 12 residents for 45 years. 27 years ago, my dad became ill and became a quadriplegic. So without self-determination in our lives, I wouldn't be standing before you guys today having the career that I have, because I would be taking care of him still. So self-determination has allowed him to remain in his own home with his own caregivers, living completely independent of his children's help. And for that, I just have to forever be grateful, right? Like it's powerful to be able to have this system in place so that we as children, or we as parents, or we as family members can still lead the life that we choose to lead as well. So that is one of the biggest advantages, I think, and Tiff kind of covered that, but let me just jump into the fact that you get great caregivers, right? You get to choose. That's better, right? It's better than an agency showing up with a staff member that you haven't even met on the first day that has to provide personal care. I can remember the first day I showed up at my dad showed up at my house, but I had to wash him up for the first time as his daughter. It was very uncomfortable, right? It's not something you want to do, and he was uncomfortable. So having somebody that outside of his children be able to provide that intimate personal care was powerful. Care delivery. It's on your schedule, on your time, on the way you want it designed. Like Tiff said, if you don't want to take a shower at 6:30 in the morning, you don't have to. As I stated about my dad, being able to remain in his own home. I mean, any other person in his circumstances truly would be in a nursing home probably 26 years ago of the 27 years we've been doing this, because it's hard. It's hard. He can't feed himself, he can't drink, he can't go to the bathroom, he can't do anything. He needs help for everything that he does. Supplemental care, right? They're able to have those supplemental services coming into the home and taking care of the whole person. So self-determination can solve a lot of problems. It's not just the care needs. It's not just the luxury of having to, the people that you choose to take care of you. It's also a cost savings. Studies have shown that it saves 12 to 15%, and that's growing. As we see more people aging, the baby boomers are coming up. We're seeing these care needs being more needed than ever before. So what is self-direction?
That me?
That's you.
All right.
Again.
Well, good. She's going to have to remind me I'm bad at that part. I want to hit on one more thing that she was talking about. When we talk about those care needs reductions, the 12 to 15% cost savings. I'll have to remember if that's the actual number, but the cost savings are actually not related to the ways you might think, right? So the unit rates you plug into your system or the things you do with them are actually directly correlated to the same you would give to a provider agency, right? They're the exact same according to the technical requirements of the technical guide. The difference is how they're utilized. The person has the authority and responsibility to make sure their care needs are met. And the person tends to be very invested in making sure that they use those dollars well, in good fashion, and they don't want to lose them, right? So they are really invested in how those dollars are used. So usually they're more frugal on average in general than it would be if it was a staffing arrangement who was shipping someone out. So we serve a program in Wisconsin. We serve quite a few programs in Wisconsin. And one of the programs we serve is a self-directed kind of staffing style arrangement. And one of the things that we're struggling with, which is, in my opinion, a super good problem, my team probably wouldn't agree, is the fact that right before the shift, we only require a 30 minutes notice. So right before the shift, a participant or a person can call and say, you know, my sister came over today and I don't really want my caregiver to come today. And they just cancel, right? Like they just say, no problem, Mr. Jones, we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna cancel it and we'll reschedule it. You call us when you're ready. And it is a completely self-directed, even staffing arrangement, which is creating a staffing nightmare for the record. It's very, very difficult to staff and causes all kinds of drama for the team. But the most important piece of that puzzle is that Mr. Jones felt comfortable to do that. There was no guilt or pressure or any of those things because he had the choice to make that. So people are choosing when the services are important to them and how the services are delivered that are important to them. So it's not the cost savings is not the way you might think. I just wanted to point that out. And what is self-direction? So we talked a lot about self-determination. Self-determination is that advocacy, that right, that personal power, that personal choice. Now the term self-direction is literally how you direct your services, okay? So this is how you direct your services. This is when you've chosen to go to a self-directed care model. You're choosing maybe to direct hire a vendor or a direct hire participant or employee, a DSP, a direct service provider, or a caregiver. This is when you're choosing to self-direct your services. So self-determination is something we all have, right? I can self-determine that I want to go to the coffee shop later. That is, it's a way to self-determine. It's the choices. Self-direction is how you get your care needs, okay, how you direct your care. There's a couple of different ways to receive them. LTSS, as we've heard more times than we probably can count, long-term supports and services. There's really only two choices. We think of the millions that we offer, right? But there's institutional settings and home and community-based services. And in Michigan, we talk a lot about institutional settings, how we don't have an institution, right? Well, that's super powerful. That's amazing. That is not the case in all the programs we serve. But institutional settings are also determined by nursing home rates, nursing facility rates. So nursing facilities are also considered institutional care and what a lot of times determines the financing of a budget model. Home and community-based services is the other way to receive those services, in your home and in your community. Now, maybe I'm biased, but I just know that when something happens inevitably to me, either aging or a disability, all of those things are inevitable, right, for all of us most likely, I know where I want mine to be from, right? And all of the people in this room, from advocates to professionals, are the people who make that happen. You guys, we make it, right? We make it whether we're from a staffing agency or we make it whether you're going to self-direction, whether or not you're an equine therapy provider. All of those make it so your home and community are a powerful place to live. There are many self-directed services models. This is a general model of how it can go. And this is basically starting by how much choice you have in a self-directed services model. So we're gonna go all the way over here. This is still self-direction. This is agency with choice, right? This is where you can choose the agencies providing your services. So this is a vendor model, essentially. And many times the agencies have the hiring and firing power of the caregiver, but you may be able to choose when they come or like how often they're there or the person that's coming, okay? This is the very first step in a self-directed model. Next level is employer authority, okay? So employer authority is the next step in self-direction model. Employer authority is where you can choose the person that's providing the care. So, and many times you can choose how you schedule them. You can choose like the time they come and how often and up to a maximum amount of hours or days they can come and provide the service to you, okay? This is employer authority model. And an example of this would be like, oddly enough, a self-directed model is home help. Home help is where you can choose the individual provider that comes into your home. You can't choose the pay rate. You might not choose the maximum number of hours, but you can choose the person. So an employer authority model example would be home help. Modified budget authority, this is where Michigan tends to live. Oops, excuse me. Michigan tends to live in the modified budget authority world, okay? Modified budget authority is when a funding source or agency gives you an overall unit rate, number of hours, cap, and ultimately may have some say in the levels of provider credentials you need in order to have the person work for you. So if you think about like our CMH world, we may say that they have CPR, first aid, recipient rights that are required in IPOS training. So by us choosing that as a state, we're saying that as a state we require that, or a CMH we require that, and then put it in there. We're also choosing things like unit rates, which allows a person to go up to a maximum or a total. So we live in the modified budget authority realm, and we choose the level of services that they can have, right? So there are only so many services can be self-directed. The next level is full budget authority. This is the most choice and responsibility. If you think of like the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation, when Michigan first started, like the cash and counseling kind of model, in our world, California, Minnesota, and Maryland are some of the states we serve that are full budget authority. That looks a little bit different in that the person receives a total dollar amount of services. So let's say you get $50,000 of services a year. This person would choose every piece of how that $50,000 is spent. Not just the direct care provider, not just anything. They interview the financial management services. They interview their case managers. They interview every provider that they're going to have. They get quotes on things like ramps, okay? And then they choose the provider based on the needs that they're going to have. And then we pay as the FMS, like the vendor, the budget, the dollars, everything they do is chosen. Okay, so that's the full budget authority. This is the far right extreme of it. Michigan lives right in here and is working more and more towards here. I don't know if we'll ever totally be here, but we're working it. Is this you, Tanya? Or is it still me? You? Go ahead.
So who can self-direct and what services are available? Who? Anyone. Anyone. Anyone can self-direct their services, right? Adults, children with disabilities or other long-term care needs, individuals with mental illness, veterans. Those are just some examples, but anyone can self-direct. And what services? Any services that are offered can be self-directed, right? Personal care, community living supports, nursing services, respite, homemaker services, companion care. Just a classic.
Support broker.
Yeah, exactly. Our slide needs to be updated.
I know, right?
Just kind of an example of this, of who and what. Recently, we took over a contract in Ohio, and I worked with a family in Ohio to do their enrollment into GT Independence. And one of the things that Ohio DD had approved was an e-bike, okay? So an electric bike for this dad that has an attachment on the back to carry his daughter and ride her down the beach in Florida as they stay down there 6 or 8 months of the year, okay? I have gotten numerous text messages to my phone since doing that enrollment of pictures and videos of him riding his daughter with Down syndrome miles and miles and miles along the shore in Florida, and I can't tell you how much that warms my heart to see that goods and services are making a difference in people's lives, right? Like that girl, her laugh is infectious, her smile is, it gives me chills. I literally have chills on my legs right now. And I look back at those pictures and it makes it all worth it, right? Yes. In Michigan. I don't have the Medicaid provider manual at my ready here, but yeah.
Hard pass.
Mm-hmm. Well, first of all, they don't come to us and let us know they want to put it under goods and services. That has to come from the CMH through an authorization to GT Independence, and then we take care of it all from there. Yep. But typically goods and services that we see, I don't know. I mean, it's really what is medically necessary for that person, right? So it's individualized. I've seen things from
definitely a common one is reimbursement of training. So if there's an additional training that might be helpful for your person served, so individual trainings I've seen authorized. not a ton of goods and services quite yet in Michigan.
No, it's not as prevalent here in Michigan. I have seen GF, general fund dollars, be used for like wheelchair purchases and things like that. But as far as the definition of goods and services, I would have to direct you back to the Medicaid provider manual because I don't have it open in front of me and I don't want to misspeak. But it really is who, anyone, what, anything, right? Any service that's provided to you can be self-directed. Yes. Yep. Yep, it would have to be authorized at the CMHSP level and then sent to us, like for our, just to give you guys an example, our Ohio program, and we're hoping that Michigan gets to this point, but our Ohio program, they send us the authorization of what they need, and maybe it's just something on Amazon, right? We order the thing on Amazon and we have it shipped to the participant's home, and we take care of all of the paying of that item to facilitate them having that item in their own home. So.
Well, and I think as Michigan moves more and more to budget authority, I think those will be broader conversations.
Right.
But I think as of right now, it would be very much need to be proven medically necessary. And a lot of the things we do see rolled in Michigan for goods and services are related to like a CLS need or something, and that gets rolled right into the CLS dollars to help someone support getting into the community. So that is
Correct.
typically what we see on the goods and services model in Michigan.
Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think that's even the goods and services conversation is something we're seeing even at the CMS level.
Mm-hmm.
So I just had a question regarding, so say, we kind of talked about this a little bit yesterday with somebody else, but a person that had self-determination, but career GT independent,
Nice.
through the local CNH. They're receiving CLS services, but part of their goals are to exercise. Their form of exercise is swimming. And so maybe getting a membership to the local Y. How does that look, through, like, how does that work through GT and the local CNH?
Yeah, you want me to? Okay.
ahead.
If the local CMH authorizes it, right? So if it's approved from the CMH and the case management end of it, then it would come through GT. On our end, we'd set that vendor up. So if it is, for the instance, the YMCA, we'd set the vendor up as a vendor within our system, pay them directly, right? So it would be come through as an authorization with us. We'd reach directly out to the vendor of chosen by the person. We'd set the vendor up so that we can pay them directly for the services authorized in the timeline, and then we'd reimburse the services directly to the vendor. And then the participant would see that on their budget. So when it comes into our GT portal, they'd see that what was paid out, and that would come out of the total budgeted dollars for the year.
And the same can go for professional services, right? Like if they need OT, PT, speech, same sort of setup.
Yep, we'd set those up as individual vendors or purchase of service agreements, if you've
Right.
heard that term.
Yep.
It'd be a vendor arrangement. Support brokerage, similar, right? Purchase of service arrangement to where the person is choosing that vendor to provide the services. Me? All right. Questions before I go on? All right, self-SD access points in Michigan. So we all know about the CMH access points, right? So that is the way that we're most commonly familiar with. There's other ways to get an SD in Michigan. There's other ways. Area Agency on Aging community mental health, PACE programs, waiver agents, which are different than AAA's, oddly enough, Michigan Agency with Choice, My Health Link program through the health plans, private pay, and veterans programs. So we serve, like I mentioned before, 95, 96 contracts across the state, and they vary in all of these models. So there is a wide range of the different populations that we serve and the places that they can access SD. So I know we're talking about CMHSPs here today, but if you have families or friends, that's other ways they can access self-direction across the state. SD roles and responsibilities. Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead. Sure. Yep. Yep. Mm-hmm. Yep. She would reach out to their case manager, so she would be choosing that ultimately because she's self-directing. They would reach out to them and let them know they want to self-direct their personal care worker. So in My Health Link, that's the authorized service in Michigan. So they would self-direct, and she would ask for self-directing her personal care worker. And then as long, we'd send out the traditional background check and application, and then it would go through that process. You're very welcome. All right, so this is during the enrollment process. So this is before a person has started self-directing, okay? So the 3 layers we've labored this into is the participant and employer, the case manager, and the financial management service, okay? So there are many other layers to this, but this is just for quick hits. Participant employer, attend a meeting and request that they want it, right? The participant is the person advocating for themselves here, or their representative. They need to let their case manager know. In their person-centered planning process, which is all about them, then we discuss whether or not this is a good opportunity or choice for them, okay? So it is up to them to initiate or help with their family and support circle. This is their choice. Choose self-direction. Case manager, develop the person-centered plan with the person, right? This is something we all do all the time. Assess medical necessity and authorize appropriate services. And submit the referral for self-directed services to your chosen financial manager service, FMS, or fiscal employer agent, or fiscal intermediary, or financial management counseling service, depending on where we're at.
Or GT Independence.
Or any of the FMSs. Our job from there, we receive that self-directed services. We enroll the participant and their employees and complete the necessary paperwork. This looks easier than it is, okay? Good. You would... It is a part of, a budget is a piece of it, yes, absolutely. So the budget is determined here. Yep, so budget happens here with your case management team. We've briefed it down, but when you enroll the participant with us or with any FMS, the person chooses their FMS, right? So hopefully you have a choice in provider in there. They choose the FMS would then run all of those eligibility checks. So when you'd send it to your FMS, you'd let them know who the person is, who the person they're choosing to provide those services, and what services they'd be providing. So amount, scope, and duration are key words in there. The amount of services that they'll be receiving for that year, the scope of it, so what's the services look like and what do they entail, what's being authorized in that person-centered plan, and the duration. How long is it happening for, right? How long are you giving the self-directed service for? 6 months, a year? What's it look like? So those things are all happening before they come to us. Financial management services, you guys might think of us, we're essentially the payroll company, right? We provide payroll and HR functions for the person, for the individual employer. We like to think ourselves more than that, right? We're fierce advocates and counterparts and friends and team members and all of those things. But essentially our role is to help facilitate that employer and employee's relationship, get them set up legally, professionally, and correctly, and make sure that their payroll is provided and stays within their authorized budget from you guys or from that you're directing, right? Depending on what layer you're in.
Question, Tiff.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about how you get paid and
Sure.
what contract you have. If someone wants to use you anywhere in Michigan, what do you have to do to serve that person?
Yeah. Oh, well, we're going to go there. You're getting way ahead of me here, friend. I'm way ahead of me. But you get a question.
But that is a great question.
I'm going to talk about all of that here in just a second for you, if that's okay, Bill. Okay, thank you. Okay, now what happens once the person's enrolled? So you've got them to your FMS of choice. They're all set up and ready to rock. They're starting their services. Now what? Right? You've noticed that the case manager list has gone drastically down in the role here, right? You're still there for support. case managers are still a huge support system. But now, who's got the work? The person, right? The person recruits, interviews, hires, and manages and terminates their employees. So with their support system, maybe their employee can't work for them anymore. They went off to college. They finalized their nursing degree. They went and did something, that they love, and they need to redo that. They need to hire, they need to dismiss if someone's not acting appropriately. They're the employer. They're the legal employer in this arrangement. So we've set them up as a legal employer in our enrollment process. But they get that choice. This is the responsibility piece of self-determination. They make decisions on what to pay an employee. So they probably have a wage range from you guys, right? So if you're authorized a budget, it goes up to a certain dollar amount. As the FMS through that budgeting process, we take employer payroll taxes. So there's an employer side of those payroll taxes. It comes off the top, right? So you authorize a unit rate in the system. Employer payroll taxes and workers' compensation have to come out of that unit rate before the staff wages can be chosen. Okay, so there's a layer to being an employer. It is cheaper still than a staffing arrangement because the layer is like 12%. So if you know your staffing overhead, you can kind of compare that number in your head. And then they set employee schedules. So they tell the person when they come to work, right? They say, I don't want my shower at 6:30 in the morning. I want my shower at 10:30. I want my whatever it is. I want my CLS time when I go out in the community and work on my training to be at 2 o'clock in the afternoon because that's when my community event is happening. They train employees on their care needs. They train their employees on their care needs, right? They train them on how to work with their wheelchair or how they like to get in and out of it or like what they like to do when they're handling it. They train them. Or their support system, right? Support system, you're not alone. They ensure submitted timesheets are accurate, complete, and submitted on time. So they sign off on that time. They verify that the person was there because I don't know about you guys, but I was not there when the person was receiving the care, right? I was not the direct service provider. I was not in the house. I cannot say that they left at 6:30. The person is responsible for saying, yes, they left at 6:30, and I'm signing off on that time, right? We have to trust that. We have to trust it because they're the person saying that the services were completed. And I wasn't there to say it's completed. And neither were you guys, I'm guessing. You might have been. You might have been. The monitor services stay within authorized hours. So they get a monthly budget report. Actually, they can, it depends on the FMS, but they'll at least get a monthly budget report because that's required. GT, they can access it on a portal so they can see where they're at any given time. But honestly, it only changes pretty much every time a pay period comes out. So you can look at it any time, but like every 2 weeks or twice a month is when you can see that it'll change. All right, case manager and employer. So case manager, you're going to check in on how they're doing. Are they doing well managing their services? Are they checking in? Do they need a change? Do they have it authorized? All those things you'd normally do for any person. You're going to check in on your regular visits and make sure they're accepted. Now, FMS, you see our role kind of got bigger here. We run criminal background check results. So our role is to make sure that the person can legally work and provide Medicaid services, okay, on prospective employees. Receive timesheets, issue payments, and withhold payroll taxes. So we have to do that correctly. We are what they call a 5043C agent. So we have to file with all of the federal and state and local taxing authorities. We file quarterly tax returns, issue W-2s, 1099s, and all of those things. We also issue monthly budget reports, reporting to the state, reporting to the programs, all of those wonderful things. And we do employee and employer eligibility. I think
Just a payroll company.
Just a payroll. That's fine. Ensure compliance, oh yeah, I think I hit them all. Okay, so budgets and service plans. Is this to me? Okay. Go ahead.
Sure.
Yeah.
So, I guess coming from a smaller CNH, and I know I've talked with Tanya about this a few times on our check-in.
Mm-hmm.
So, do you think that the case manager should kind of play a role in helping to monitor the units that are remaining and things like that? Just because I know we've had issues in the past over on our unit,
Yeah.
And having to use general funds for that.
Yes.
But, not all CNHs get very many, general fund dollars.
Sure.
To try to utilize. So, we have actually just put in place where, we have an overutilization report sent to us.
Yep.
And so now we feel that the case manager should be helping to monitor those, just so we make sure we don't go over.
Yeah.
Is that something that?
Oh, Oh, definitely. I definitely think that. So I think use your FMSs. I left this super general because every FMS will do the work a little bit different. Hi, Melissa. No, that's okay. Um, every FMS will do it a little bit different, but the reporting is key and essential. So when you go into your monthly, quarterly visits, you should be looking at how they're utilizing. I'm just as worried about underutilization as I am overutilization, right? If I were a case manager, I mean, I'm always worried about those things because that's what we do. We watch for those things constantly, right? But if someone's overutilizing, that to me is like uh-oh, what's going on? Is your assessed need not meeting what you have, right? So like that's a conversation that should be a trigger. And case managers have access to that. They can jump in, they can look at those things, they can look at their monthly reporting statements, they can look in the portal if they're with us and see how a person's doing. I do think if it were me, I would want to see those things regularly and check in on how service is going. Also, underutilization. So if you're getting the overutilization, you probably want the under one too. Good. The underutilization report may tell you something like they've lost a caregiver, right? Or someone's not meeting the need that they have, or their caregiver can't come at a time that works for them, or for some reason they don't want to work with them. So those all might be things that as a support team, I would want to know on how this person's service is going. Yeah. Go ahead. Yep. We have both layers.
Right. And
Yeah.
it's really up to the administration at your CMH how they want to delegate that. I guess if they want each case manager to have access, we definitely like that. But sometimes they want to keep that admin access and have just like your SD coordinator accessing it. So it really just depends on the preference of the CMH, but definitely advocate for individual case manager access to our portal because it's a powerful tool to help manage these cases. So.
Yep, we want to give every tool we can for you. Go ahead. Sure. Nice. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Uh-huh. Yeah, no, those are good points. Sure.
Right.
Yeah, and that would definitely want to be something you'd communicate with us, right? So if the person's intending to roll those kinds of services in, yeah, they have to bill them as like service hours in an authorization line, and if they don't tie, they're going to come out to whatever service line they're coming from, right? So you'd want to have PTO or overtime or a vacation time rolled in as hours, because it will come off in a service hour in how Michigan does their billing. Sorry about the hard way. Yeah, we're ever learning because budget authority is becoming more and more of a thing, right? So this is kind of a new process, and for the fiscals as well as the participants. Go ahead, Bill.
So timesheets roll in every 2 weeks, but you keep track of it on a monthly basis.
Both.
So you must have a spreadsheet or something that keeps track of time as it comes in. And then when a month occurs, do you then go back and bill at the end of April? And so the reporting is monthly, but the timesheets you might have 3 different timesheet periods in 1 month.
Sure. I hate to be vague on this, but that is CMHSP dependent on how the timesheets come in. So each CMHSP chooses a payroll schedule with their financial management service. It could be every 2 weeks or twice a month. So some CMHSPs might have that twice a month, which will line up real nice with a monthly, or some may line up with every 2 weeks, which is actually the preferred payment model of a caregiver, right? So depends on how it was looked at when it was initially set up. But yes, actually I'll just jump. You are. You're so good. Okay, it's coming up there. It's in a couple. Is that okay? Okay. So these are the things that are in a budget. So I'm going to jump into that because that's kind of where we seem to be leading, okay? A person's budget or spending plan must encompass all the key components, and we help with this, right? So you guys would send us over an authorization, and you have your budget laid out, but then there's another layer. So when you send over your service budget, there's a layer that the FMS provides. Our role is to make sure the person has a workers' compensation policy in place and pay for that, right? So we have to have that in place, and there's a window. It's a hard window, and if something, we have to make sure that that's applied for right away when a person starts. So it's important to make sure your person, the caregiver, starts and has all their eligibility done before that, because we want to get that workers' comp in place in order to protect them and the employer, right? So it's really important. That's why when you hear maybe somebody's not ready to onboard, maybe they don't have all of their trainings in, maybe they don't have their background check cleared, maybe they don't have an authorization in place from the CMHSP. All of those things are key to making sure a person can start. From there, we take the gross wages employee, so that's the employee's wages times employer payroll taxes, and then workers' compensation and benefits, as she was mentioning. So if paid time off or holiday pay, those get rolled in on our side, so we make sure they're properly calculated and make sure the dollars have things like employer payroll taxes, because even paid time off and employee pay and holiday pay have employer payroll taxes. So it's not just straight $10, right? It's $10 times employer payroll taxes and workers' compensation, because all of those things are required to pay out a staff. But that's what we're here for. Are you ready?
Sure. So what is an FMS, right? An FMS, as she said, we're just a payroll agency. That's it. Just kidding. We provide education, as we're doing today, right? And then in our enrollment process, we do the employee eligibility, we do the criminal background checks. We apply for the workers' compensation insurance. We do the budgeting and authorization management in combination, obviously, with the case manager and the CMHSP. We get them enrolled in our EVV system. Who knows what EVV is?
I don't, so could you tell us?
I knew that question was going to come up. You weren't.
Bill wants all the candy.
Somebody said it over here. Electronic visit verification. Key word in Michigan right now. So the state of Michigan is going to mandate electronic visit verification starting beginning of January 2024. We're going to phase in providers throughout the year. It's had hard end dates that have been moved back and moved back and moved back, but I think we're here, guys. I think we're here. And GT, as well as many other financial management service companies, are ready for that. So we have our own electronic visit verification system. It's called the Caregiver app. And we get people set up with that app, and they input their time in, their time out, and the notes for their shift, and then submit it to GT and get paid. Super simple. Super simple, but it's the electronic part of it that's kind of scaring everybody. So I'm working very hard with all of our agencies in Michigan to get everybody onboarded to the electronic visit verification system so that when the state flips that switch in January, we're ready. I think we have pretty good compliance already. I think we're like at 70%-ish across the state of our participants who are already using the electronic visit verification or our Caregiver app. So, yes. I think, so the question was, what is the barrier to accessing the system? There's two main barriers that I've kind of picked up on. One is that Michigan has a lot of rural areas, and self-service isn't always as accessible as it is in other areas. However, I can't speak for other FMS's services, but GT Independence, our EVV system was built for rural Michigan, right? So you can still clock in and clock out and save that note for that shift without having internet access. The only time you have to have internet access is to submit that time at the end of the pay period. So if that means they have to run to town and get Wi-Fi at McDonald's or something like that, they'd have to do that. The other barrier is, sorry, I'm losing my voice and I'm not even talking that much. The other barrier is just people don't like change. Right? People don't like change. They're doing this, they've been doing this for years and years and years. They write out a paper timesheet and they do the whole week on one page, and they sign it off, and voila, it's done. They're afraid of change. They're afraid of the electronic component of doing visit verification. So I think it's just educating people, showing them how simple it is to be able to, if you can work a smartphone, you can do this, right? And so you just clock in, clock out, write any notes that you need to write, and it's done. So, good question.
It is a very user-friendly app.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Kudos to our IT department.
How much candy do you want? No, I'm just kidding.
Okay.
All right. Oh,
Great.
thank you.
Great. Yes. Right. That's always the comment we hear after we get somebody going, right? It's not as bad as I thought it was going to be. I was like, I tried to tell you that from the beginning. But again, it's change, and nobody likes change. So on top of that, getting people paid, we also have a lot of utilization management and budget reporting that we do at as the FMS. We withhold and file the taxes, as Tiff said. We submit the claims to the CMHSP, to the AAA, to the PACE, to the Veterans Program, whoever it is we're serving. We provide customer support. We have a team of customer service representatives, and we did some redesigning in this past year where we actually have pods that are designated for your agency, so they're more educated on your specific agency in order to better meet your needs. And then we maintain the records and compliance, right? So with every payroll system, there's auditing mechanisms. So the CMHSPs will do a Medicaid event verification audit, and with this EVV system that we have that puts it into this nice little portal that we have, this auditing and compliance part is super simple. So at the CMHSP level, when you have the Medicaid event verification audit, you can go in and you can find all the timesheets and all the notes right in our system, pull them out, provide them to the state. So very simple system to utilize. Any questions on that?
Bill, I want to answer a question that I realized we didn't cover that you asked earlier, and you asked how GT or all the fiscals get paid, or financial management services get paid in Michigan. It is an outside layer of the budget, so we are a separate line item. We're not taken out of the person's services line. We're paid at a contracted rate by every FMS, or every CMHSP. So it's listed as financial management services once a month at a certain rate that's negotiated by the CMH contract. So we're paid once a month outside of the individual's budget. So it doesn't come out of there. You got
Correct.
it. Right. Yeah, it's a negotiated contracted rate by each CMHSP, depending, and that is usually negotiated or contracted based on the needs of what they're asking. So we provide services on a layer of levels, as I'm sure all the financial management services do. There's sometimes that we are tracking 25 trainings for a person, right? And when they expire, we're sending out notifications and things like that. And sometimes we're tracking 3 trainings, right? Things like that make a difference. Sometimes payroll comes around and there's an advance funding mechanism that could reduce some of that cost burden. Other times, like it takes 90 days to get reimbursed for payroll claims. That would have an impact on how much it may cost to provide for us to provide services. But it is on a layer that doesn't come out of the individual person's budget. Yep.
All right, let's talk about enrollment. So who here has done an enrollment with GT Independence?
Oh, you got lots of you guys.
Wow, awesome. How was that experience? Helpful?
Uh-oh. There's a shaky hand in the back.
All right. So
I
as
want to hear more about it. I saw that. I want to hear more about that. Sure.
Gotcha. Okay.
Fair.
Yeah, I mean, the success of an enrollment process is deeply dependent upon the family, the participant, how ready they are, how much they have done in order to make this enrollment process successful, right? And we try to coach them through that whole process, but we can lead the horse to water, but we can't make them drink, right? So we try to make that enrollment process seamless and convenient to the people that we serve. We offer face-to-face enrollments now that the public health emergency is over, I guess. We also offer a hybrid of like a face-to-face through the screen, face-to-face, and then we bring a screen in, we help them through the enrollment on a screen, so we're there, but we're facilitating it through the screen. We also offer completely virtual, where we are in our own offices, and they're in their own place, and we kind of walk them through the enrollment process that way. So we have all the way from both virtual up to both face-to-face, and we can kind of meet them in the middle or do whatever needs to be done to be able to facilitate that enrollment.
How about
Yes.
change enrollment? Someone's already enrolled and you take over. Do you have a separate process for that?
Same process.
Mhm.
Yep, we re-facilitate all the meeting, just because when you're switching from one financial management service to another, it's still an agent change, so we have to reapply for all of those different items for you to appoint us as the representative. So we essentially kind of have to start from scratch, essentially. But it is, many times we're good. We know all the we know the fiscals in town, and we all work together to make sure that's successful for the person. I think the biggest key for the enrollment is we try to meet the person where they're at, and I think we hear that all the time in all these sessions. We really believe in that, and so if the person doesn't want me in their home, I'm not going to force them. If the person does want me in the home, I'm coming.
Right.
With pens.
And chocolate, no.
And chocolate, probably chocolate, coffee.
All right, any questions on the enrollment process at all? As far as the beginning, or the phases of enrollment process that we have? Options of enrollment process, okay. So basically at the enrollment process, we collect the information, the federal, state, and programmatic forms. We provide training, resources, and support. We go through all the roles in self-determination, the service documents requirements. We get them the caregiver app and portal set up. So caregiver app and portal, let me just expand on that a little bit. We do have a caregiver portal within GT's setup, or caregiver app. Oh, caregiver app portal setup.
Yeah, we set them up for both.
I'm talking about the directory. So
Oh,
we have a
hold off on the directory.
We have a directory of caregivers that can assist people in helping to find caregivers. And we also, like we said, are person-centered, and we meet them where they're most comfortable to do that enrollment. So the workflow. So you send us a referral from the CMH. Yes.
If she sets up a portal for herself, you're telling me she can find caregivers on the portal?
Yes.
Yep, it's just, and I can show you after, there's a quick directory in there. She can go by zip code 5, 10, or 25 miles away from your home and research, and then you guys would still be responsible for interviewing and hiring and making sure it's a person that was a good fit, but you could interview people right off our directory. No, it's the same portal.
No.
Yeah, I can show you how to get to yours and yours.
Yep. Yep.
Uh-huh.
You know, so I have my portal, but she would have to have a separate portal.
Yep.
To look at different things.
Well, and she's got a layer of it. It already exists, whether or not she's plugging into it or not. So,
She would need that portal to look at like the budget and to do.
yep, you got it. I'll hook you up. Yep. Sure. Yeah, if you're, so case management and administrative levels have access to that portal too. The person wouldn't be able to directly see inside because they're not a client with us or a person with us at this time, so they wouldn't have their own per se. But we'd be able to, if your case manager or contracted with us, we'd be able to pull a list for you or them. I do want to caution that it's probably not cost efficient or effective before a person has chosen a worker to have them start with the FMS. And the reason for that is because that monthly billing starts as soon as that authorization starts, right? So unless they kind of have a caregiver in mind or ready to go, you might not want to start that. Now, reach out to your FMS and talk to them about a person you might want to bring. That's great, but you wouldn't maybe want that billing to start until they were ready to go. Just from a fiscal perspective, but you can do whatever you like.
So after we have all the information that we need, we contact the participant. We have the referral from the case manager. We go ahead and make that initial contact. We coordinate the preferred method of enrollment with the participant and our enrollment specialist, and then we confirm and do the scheduling. We do all the programmatic required checks to ensure that the prospective employees are eligible, namely criminal background check, sometimes federal background check, all of those things. And then we can actually execute the employment documents from there, and training on self-directed services at the enrollment. And then we follow up on all the completed enrollments, confirming the start date and confirming the authorized services. And yes. Yep.
Sure. I do think that's based on like CMHSP setup and preference. So this could be, I see what you're saying, like this is interchangeable. Is this what you're saying? And follow-up. Yep. I will say that sometimes it is requested that the person, we enroll the participant and the employer and the employee, and then we come out into the home and we have the employee fill out the background check there and then identify some of the eligibility items. So these could be flipped depending on like how we're... Yeah, Michigan's a little unique in that way. We don't have a consistent process across the state. It may be different by contract based on preference. Sometimes the enrollment sets up and then we as the fiscal go out and run the background check on the employees, and then they may not have a start date right away because maybe their CPR is not completed, for instance. So all of these pieces might be in place, but they can't start. Sure. Yeah, if you want to. Sure.
This is the most typical way, correct?
Yeah.
But, I mean, it does vary because, like, in addition to what Tiff was saying, we have some CMHs that we're tracking training for. We have some CMHs we're not tracking training for, right? So if training was required prior to start date and the CMHSP was tracking that training, then they would have to be a piece of this puzzle. So it is very different across the state in how this is done.
And I know we only have about 5 minutes. Bip, bam, boom.
Okay.
How to see and manage your budget. Here's what the portal budget looks like, at least from ours, but this is what a monthly budget statement would look like in general if you were logging on to participant portal or case manager portal or agency level portal. It shows your monthly usage and then your usage annual, and there's the cute little pie chart up the top. It also shows a bar graph on like how you're doing according to the year. So this little line tells you if you're using your services, let's say you get 30 hours a month, you're using 30 hours a month every single month, you'd be here. So this person is underutilizing in this case, right? But are still good. And maybe they're saving that up, right? Maybe that budget flexibility is like, summer hours are more summer hours, right? Maybe like they have more care needs in the summer because their kiddo's not in school. There might be a reason for that, but each individual self-directed arrangement is an individual self-directed arrangement, right? That's part of the conversation. Go ahead. When it becomes a health and safety concern, I'd say. I would say, and like, it really is, as long as you're being checked in on and making sure, maybe there's a reason you're underutilizing. Yeah, I mean, there's probably a reason. You only have your respite caregiver in the summer, right? Or whatever it might be. There's probably reasons for underutilization, but sometimes it can send off an alarm bell. So we're not, right, as the fiscal. I'm making reporting for it, showing it. I'm not going to call you and be like, you're underutilizing, what's going on, right? That's your case management and support team. We're providing the financial reporting related to it, if that makes sense. I don't want to go into this, but this is just lines out like in detail, and the PowerPoints are all available from the conference here. What is SD again? See, I got the transition that time.
All right,
Want me to play it?
Yep.
Okay.
Self-direction is a model of long-term care that allows people to receive support in their home the way they want it, even people who might otherwise live in a nursing home or group home. Let's take, for example, Betty, who needs 24/7 support, including help bathing and getting dressed. Then there's Michael, who needs support with job skills and getting rides to community events. With self-direction, people like Betty and Michael recruit, hire, and manage their own workers. That means Betty can hire her daughter to help her with intimate tasks like showering. And when Michael has a last-minute job interview, he simply asks his worker to drive him there and updates his schedule accordingly. They can also buy things to help them live more independently at home, like grab bars in Betty's bathroom, or a computer for Michael to connect with his peers. Self-direction programs have supports built in to help people set goals, make decisions about how to meet their needs, and manage payroll and paperwork. People who self-direct can also appoint a family member or friend to help manage their services and make decisions on their behalf. Across the country, self-direction gives millions of people more choice, control, and flexibility, so they can live safely and comfortably at home and remain part of their communities.
Great video from Applied Self-Direction. Oh,
Oh, it's just, I need to advance. I want to give that out code really quick because I don't want to hold you over if you need to go. So the out code is 65, right? Because now is our time, right? Yep.
I think we're till 10, right?
Are we till 10? Oh, hallelujah. I was thinking it was 8. I'm like, we're so far behind. I was rushing. All right. Well, you can have the out code if you want it. 65.
So I just wanted to bring today a couple testimonials of real life examples of how self-determination and self-direction has impacted a few people that we serve. First one is Dave and Kathy, and I think the video is going to speak for itself, but I think that when these testimonials can speak more volume than what we can even stand up here and tell you guys. So let's see what Dave and Kathy's impact has been from self-direction.
My name is Dave DeBoer. I'm Kathy's significant other and also her legal guardian. I had friends that used to hang out at a bar, used to be called the Keg. Kathy was actually waiting tables. She had dyed blonde hair at the time and was, I mean, just absolutely smoking gorgeous. Then we became bar buddies. We were always gonna do something, never did. One night I was down at the timeout and there she was. You know, we always stayed the other side of friendship, and she probably played the friend card even more than I did. We started seeing each other, and this was back when she was starting to get symptomatic. And when I saw her, she did not look like the same person. You know, her health has slid quite a ways. Still very pretty. And then come to find out, at the time, she's like falling through one social safety net after the next. It's like you have a choice. You can either step in front of it, or you can look away, and that I couldn't bring myself to do. So she moved up here with her girls. Well, then one morning I go to give her Xenazine, and she shakes her head no. And it's like, why don't you want to take your medicine? Well, that medicine's for Huntington's disease. If I take that medicine, that means I have Huntington's disease. I don't want to have Huntington's disease, so I'm not going to take the medicine. Huntington's chorea chorea means dance, and there are rhythm motions, and they are usually rather constant, and they get worse. And what happens is her body misfolds a protein, and it is toxic to the basal ganglia of her brain. Over time, they are unable to respond, they are unable to move. So we went up and saw a genetic counselor to get the results disclosed. And honestly, Kathy, you could have told her that she had a booger in her nose. It really, really, really didn't faze her. She was just crushed by what it was doing to her daughters, but personally, it did not bother her. And at the time I thought, well, at least the discussion about do I have Huntington's disease or not, and do I take my medicine, this should get better. Nothing scares her. She seems to be unfazed by it, and I'm not sure if it's a broad stroke of courage, but I'm blessed that she doesn't have the burden of having to think through it every day. She's always been very, very sweet, very, very protective of her children, very, very kind to pets. Every once in a great while, and it always happens so fast. That is the part that is really hard, is I'll get a I love you out of her. It's hard because most of the time I'm rattling on about something and it's like I almost miss it. And it's like I just want to hold on to that because they don't come very often anymore. Every Saturday morning, we give her soak just to see her just completely relax. It is so sweet. She crosses her ankles and her butt's floating, and she will slowly swing from side to side. It's just her happy place. She likes 80s rock. Concrete Angel, this was a long time ago. We were all sitting on the couch and Kathy was in the middle. She was holding both of our hands and she was singing it, and she hit every word, and she was looking back and forth at us the whole time. And she was so proud of herself. It was so sweet. It was one of those moments that you just didn't want it to end. The first go around with self-direction, I actually found this program doing research. The service right now is very reliable. Disability Network has some resources too. They actually paid to have the ramp put on the house and the door widened, and they also bought us an inflatable bathtub. At the time, it was a godsend. I think this whole program can be a wonderful journey. It truly can. And again, it matters how deep into the water you're willing to go for another person. And if you're willing to do that, then I think that it can be a very fortunate, positive thing. Their basic pitch when you get to a nursing home is, okay, stop at the door. We got them. Let go of them. They're ours now. And I'm like, no, she's not. She is not, and she never will be. I've been told that I'm a pretty aggressive advocate for her. If it comes to her care, they're not going to step on her in the process. Kathy got dealt like the worst hand possible, but she's not sorry about it. I know pretty much for a fact that Kathy's alive today because of the time that she spent at home. There is a reason that me and Kathy bumped into each other in our life, and I truly believe there is. And I think one of her contributions to me is it's a line I heard in a movie once, that you should be with the person that makes you a better person. She has certainly done that for me. I would do it over again every day, without a doubt.
Very powerful.
Want me to say this one?
Yeah, go ahead.
I don't know if any of these folks look familiar, but if anybody, we have some Michiganders in here.
Blake has a number of disabilities, and he is not group home material, although in my opinion, I don't think anybody's group home material. The consumers that are in the group homes here are very limited in their choices of what they get to do, and they all basically have to do the same thing. It's a group outing, it's not like individualized, and really it's like glorified daycare. They just sit a lot and do nothing. And at least with Blake, Blake has choices about what he wants to do, what he wants to eat, where he wants to go. What do you like to eat best? What do the Ninja Turtles eat?
Pizza.
Yes, pizza. Most folks with disabilities would greatly benefit from self-determination. The rest of us get to decide if we want to take 3 showers or baths a day. We can't. So why should a person with a disability not be able to have that freedom also? What kind of video games do you like to play, Blake?
Ninja Turtles.
Ninja Turtles? And he has a Ninja Turtle arcade, so he loves the Ninja Turtles. We started with GT Independence 21 years ago, and the thing that I really like about GT is the fact that they truly understand disability. It's amazing that they invest the time and money in people to teach people that work there about disabilities. By doing the self-determination, deciding for yourself, like deciding for himself, he has opportunities that he wouldn't otherwise have.
That That was our first self-directed participant in Michigan. So yes, they signed off on it. They wanted to be in the video, right? Like we didn't force them. That's all. That's their choice. But Blake and Debbie are the first ones that I've met in the state of Michigan, and they were customer number 1 at GT, and they've been with us. I guess it's 21 years. Remember I was saying it was 20? It must be 21. Debbie probably knows better than me. I'll let Tanya wrap it up.
Yeah, so I think the biggest thing that we want to take away from today is just for y'all just to get involved, right? Tiff talked a lot about that budget authority, true budget authority in the state of Michigan, and how we're trying to really, really work for true budget authority here for the people to be able to direct their budget in the way that they want. And to do that, we need advocates, right? So in all realms of self-determination and self-direction, advocacy is so super important. So get involved. You can advance the slide. Speak up, make comments, talk to people, join committees, join, the ARC has a million ways that you can get involved. The state of Michigan has a million committees that you can sit on. There's a disability committee now that's open to the public, and it is a powerful time to meet together with persons served, with sometimes even with legislators. So it's just it's a good way to get involved. So find your advocacy groups and get involved. If you need help finding them, please, you can always reach out to me, and then you can advance. And our contact information is here. We're both readily available at email. Phone sometimes is a little tricky when we're traveling, but send us an email and we can definitely answer any questions that you have. But does anybody have any? We have like 5 minutes to wrap up. Anybody have any lingering questions here? I'm sorry? Do you have a card? I don't have a card with me.
I can give you mine.
Just email, yep.
Yeah. Email's probably the best route. I can give you my email too.
This presentation is with the rest of them that are coming out from the conference as well, so our contact information will be there. So,
also please take home candy, highlighters, pens, any of the things that you might like, so we don't have to carry it. Questions?
Do they?
Oh, you're Tiffany and Tiffany.
Oh. It's a dream for me to be here someday. She's my hero.
You're right. This is Tanya Lawrence.
That's so funny.
Pink. Tiffany's in blue.
That tells you how busy we've been, that we didn't even have time to proof the PowerPoint.
Thank you
Literally
for saying
been in conferences every day this week. So
that really is her email address and phone number, though.
Yes, it is. She's Superwoman. We kid about it, but it's true.
Oh, goodness. No. All right.
Yes. Yeah, and I think that's something, I mean, I can't speak for other FMSs, but here at GT, we pride ourselves on that education component. So if you're a CMH SP that we work with, we have a contract with, we do quarterly meetings, monthly meetings if we need to. And I myself can do those virtual trainings on what is self-direction, how does it work? Some of the same content we went through here today, but more into the weeds, the details, the nitty-gritty part of how to do that process and how to work through it so that it is easier when you have that participant in front of you who's choosing self-direction. So I know that I've done the training for a number of you in the room and probably can attest to the fact that it really is helpful to have that process outlined. And it's helpful as a refresher even if you don't do SD every day, just to kind of have that re-education.
I will say it's ever evolving too, right?
Yes.
Okay, so as technical guides change, technical requirements change, contract language changes, all of those things are ever evolving. So if you haven't done one in a while and you're looking to start one, it doesn't hurt to reach out to your SD coordinator at your agency. They probably know the workflow very well, or reach out directly to the FMS you're choosing. They'll know the workflow really well, just to kind of make sure you're up to date with the most recent things. Trainings change, right? Documentation changes, how to log your time changes, all those things are ever evolving. EXA code is 65. I know I gave it earlier, but I'll give it again just for anybody who forgot. And we'll be up here for questions, so just let us know if you need anything. Have a wonderful day. Thank you for coming to our session,